Hello and welcome into the AOC Malta Cyber Series Masters between Edge and Haze. Should be an exciting best of three in the first game for the first set in our semifinals that we have here in this series right now. I am Alex Magical Voice, joined in by the one, the only, the Ender.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm all pumped up for this matchup here because all of our semifinalists, right? We've got 4 teams. None of them have dropped a game. There's about to be blood spilled
Yep.
here on the Rift, and it's only a matter of time before either Edge or Haze fall. Later on today, we've got Rift Kings up against Raving Raptors Academy, so only 2 of these teams can really make it to next week. I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, I'm really excited, especially because this is the matchup we've kind of been waiting for a while. We saw these two teams in the group stages, and we were really excited to see them because we knew that they're going to be really strong teams. Now we got to see how they're going to do when they face against each other, which team's going to end up coming up on top, and who's going to make it to the finals. And we're getting through the picks and bans pretty fast right now, and I'm just going to really quickly just go over. We got Rise, Poppy, and Rengar coming in from Haze, and then Jinx and Nocturne coming in from Edge with the Lee Sin pickup. What do you think of that?
Well, if we look at some of the bans here by Haze, the Rengar makes a whole lot of sense. Washed Up Kid was an absolute terror on that last week in Edge's series up against the Washed Up Kids, coincidentally. But then they also ban away Poppy. And that's a little bit of a surprise because Living Dream played that, their own top laner, played that 2 times last week, both of their games in their matchups, which is a little bit of a surprise in taking that one away from Living Dream. So already in this game 1, he's going to have to switch it up to something else that maybe he's not as comfortable at or didn't want to show in their matchup last week.
Yeah, it could be interesting, and that would be really smart to do. You don't want to show something against a competitor that you really do respect, especially when it comes to Edge, because Edge is such a strong team that we really are going to be looking at. And ooh, those Alistar and the Vayne locked in. I love that combo in the bot lane.
Yeah, it's not one that you see all that often, seeing this, this all-in engage type support paired up with a laner that isn't going to have too much kill threat, but once they do hit level 6, that all-in can be very, very powerful coming out of Panda and Snow down there in the bottom lane. But already the hover seems to be the Caitlyn, and that would be able to punish very, very easily. Janna is also a pick that historically does well into Alistar because you have 2 different abilities that can thwart the Headbutt Pulverize combo, either the Tornado or you can also use your Monsoon to have that same sort of effect. Has the same idea up against the Lee Sin, who wants to, QQ on top of you, ward hop, all that stuff. There's a lot of room for Janna to stop the engages that Edge have really drafted their team around, which is so vital to their composition with just their first 3 lock-ins.
Yeah, they definitely do like to have that jump in, and I do that is a good pick to see that Janna coming in, making so that they're going to stop a lot of that from happening. And also with the Caitlyn being such a long range champion. The only thing is, how do you think that kind of play? Because they have like the stop the engage, but then they have the Orianna and they have the Jarvan, which are going to be most likely ball delivery system on the Cataclysm coming in from Jarvan, really trying to use that to their advantage in order to do a lot of engages.
Yeah, there's a couple ways Haze can actually play these team fights. One, you said it, they just pretty much engage with the Jarvan Orianna, that's a fantastic combo, and then you can leave Worku on the Janna just to peel for the backline to make sure they're completely safe, and everyone else can go straight head first into the team fight. The other way they can do it is if they need time to wait for Living Dream to come around from the side, or wait for Etsu to come in from the jungle. Well, you can disengage and also then re-engage with the Orianna Shockwave followed up by a Cataclysm. So there's definitely a lot of different ways they can play these fights based on how they really start off and how aggressive Edge is going to be coming into them.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I like the Maokai pickup, because it's going to be something that it's able to start in fights, but it's also kind of able to disengage fights if it really has to. It can do a great job with peeling if they need to for Pickles, well, for Panda Opa, for Pickle Store on that Cassiopeia, so that they can stop a lot of things. They could also stop a lot of the engage coming in, because we also see the Cassiopeia coming in, Cassiopeia being great with the Miasma, and yeah, that Fiora pickup. I know you're looking at that. You're really intrigued by that. Please tell me more.
Well, I'm wondering now if the Poppy ban from Haze was specifically intended to open up this Fiora last pick, because Poppy's such a strong champion, you would see that quite often, but it also does fairly well into the Fiora matchup, able to stuff any of the dashes, and becomes very strong in that 1v1 mid game. Later on in the game, the Fiora would then take the cake once you get your second lifesteal item, but for mid game, that's going to be a fantastic split pusher here in that Fiora up against Armia's Maokai, and really opens up Haze once again. We were talking about how they're going to play these team fights. Well, now they don't really ever want to engage. Now with this dominant side lane split push threat in Living Dream, you're going to be wanting to use the Janna to completely disengage and buy time for Living Dream to make work out of turrets in the side lanes.
Yeah, and speak about just trying to bait for a longer time. They could even do that with the Jarvan and with the Orianna. They can use the Shockwave or the Cataclysm to more disengage than anything, then flying drag out if they have to. So that way they don't really start fights, kind of like you were saying. But my question really is, so we see that. We see the Fiora coming in from there. How do they kind of punish that? How are they going to be able... How do we see Edge punishing them trying to do this split push kind of team comp?
Well, Edge, they've got very hard engage of their own. We did say that, you know, the Janna and there's other tools that Haze have to thwart it, but you have a Maokai who goes invulnerable, untargetable. When he does utilize that twisted advance, they can teleport in from the side, so they really have to punish Haze, catch them out when they are only grouped up as their 4-man ball. Get that numbers advantage, because if Living Dream teleports into a fight, first of all, Fiora TPing into a fight doesn't have that big of an impact. It's not a Kennen, a Maokai, anything like that just changes the course of a team fight. But what it also is going to mean is that you're going to have 5 extra seconds minimum, or 4.5 rather, that you can start that team fight and get the damage in and look to dive onto both Asmalex and Prey, because Asmalex especially had sort of a rough series last week. He didn't dominate. He was one of the weaker performers on the Haze lineup, and it was still a 2-0 for Haze. They're still undefeated, and it wasn't like he brought his team down, but that is a point that Edge may be looking to exploit in this game 1.
Yeah, especially when you see something like a Vayne. A Vayne is just such a scary thing in the late game that you really do need to make sure that you don't even get behind in the early game, because like you said, if you get behind in the early game, then it can just make it so much more devastating that you didn't get ahead, you don't have this lead, and then Vayne just punishes you for that.
Right, and that's the thing. Asmalex and Worku, they have very good tools to punish in this 2 versus 2. So they have the right idea. They're going to have a nice early game, but if they don't get a lead, if they don't get an advantage, that's where they may fall into trouble. Not to mention the fact that, again, looking at teleport plays, once the level 6s start to come around, you can put some wards deep in the lane, and Armia can try to TP in behind them and get the lockdown, because again, Janna's not going to really be able to thwart a Maokai jumping onto your carry's face, so it'll be a very interesting game. There's a lot of interesting combinations in this game, the way the push and pull works in League of Legends, where this composition A is good into composition B, but then composition B has some tools that can work against it, and it's just, it can go pretty much any way based on individual execution and how they play out these team compositions.
Yeah, it's really... I think you're right. It's going to be really interesting to see how they play these team comps, because they're both really solid teams, but it is more dependent on if they're able to actually execute these kind of team comps that they're looking for. If they're able to execute that heavy engage on the side of Haze, on the side of Edge, or if Haze is able to really pull off that split comp, or if they're forced to more go for the team fights, forced to have to play Edge's game. It could really be detrimental to what they're doing. And before we are starting to get into the loading screen, before we do, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. First off, we have AOC Gaming,
Go!
Malta Tourism Authority,
esportsgaming.bet,
Miney,
GT Omega Racing,
and the Gamers Lounge.
PogChamp.
Alright guys, I hope you please go check out the sponsors, because they are helping us bring this tournament to you, and everyone behind the scenes, all the people that are helping us. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And yeah, we are starting to load into the loading screen right now, so we will be bringing you this exciting game 1 between Edge and Haze, in this best of 3 for the semifinals to find out who is going to make it to the finals here in just a moment. So guys, please stick around.
And unfortunately, loading screen hates us and doesn't want to get us into the game.
There it is.
But we're here now. That's
Finally,
what we're talking about.
I was like, oh, I thought I timed it well. I got the percentages and everything, and then it stood there for a bit. And I was like, oh, well, that's disappointing. But we are finally on to the Rift right now. We are going to be getting game 1 between Edge and Haze going in. We have Edge on the blue side and Haze on the red side. Ender, please introduce the first team.
Oh yeah, over on the blue side, it's going to be the one and only Edge with Armia up in the top lane, Washed Up Kid at jungle, Picklesaur in the middle lane, Panda Opa on AD carry, and Caitlyn Snow on support.
And then on the red side, we have Haze, Living Dream in the top lane, Etsu in the jungle, Prey in the mid lane, and Asmalex and Worku in the bot lane.
Yeah, and already just the guys going for the classic 5-point start. No early aggression this time around, but I'm going to be looking at both Lee Sin and Jarvan to be making some plays early and often in this game. Some big power points that we are hitting in Champ Select. This top lane, how Living Dream, even if he goes even in this match, he is going to be so strong in a split push scenario. Perhaps that gives some more reason for Washed Up Kid to visit up to that top side of the map, and as you see him rotating over to start on his red buff, that could definitely hint towards that. But there's also the possibility now, if you go red buff into Krugs, that is level 3, very early gank opportunities down bottom lane, and Caitlyn Snow, if he can get that level 2, and get that headbutt pulverize in, if Worku can't react fast enough, that is also a very good option for Edge to go for here.
Yeah, I would really like to see them try to go for that. That would be a great way to open up the map, but it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. Washed Up Kid is going to go straight for the Wolves and blue buff, so not going to see any early level cheese yet.
Yeah, but the issue here for Edge now, because they don't go for any pressure down bottom, Panda Opa and Snow, they both leashed for Washed Up Kid. That meant they were late to getting to the lane. Asmalex and Worku, they were already going to have a good time, but they're completely zoning these two Edge guys off of the wave. It was already going to be a tough lane, but this is just adding kind of insult to injury to start things off.
Yeah, and just to really quickly point out something, you kind of wanted Washed Up Kid to go for that Krug start, but we saw Etsu go for it. So Etsu got that the early cheese. So he's going to go for this top lane gank. He's level 3. But now Washed Up Kid, he's level 3 as well. He's going to look for something in the top lane. Going to see if they can get a counter gank right now. Going in from Etsu.
They just pinged out Etsu.
Yeah, they did. Did they ping out Etsu?
Yeah, there was a blue ping up in that bush. I don't know if... they have to know. Washed Up Kid is staying here for a long, long time.
Yeah, he is. They have to expect something, or they're looking for Living Dream. There's the ward coming in. They missed the Sonic wave. And we see Etsu still there. He's still just sitting there. They pinged it again. They have a feeling that Living Dream's playing a little too aggressive, so they're not wanting something. Etsu canceled the recall again.
Well, the issue here now is not even the fact that Etsu is wasting time here, but he's leeching EXP away from Living Dream. He was trying to get there early to make an impact, to try and really swing that matchup into Living Dream's favor, but he's actually going to be leeching EXP. Now he recalls, and he's just kind of in this really awkward position now where he's got a lot of farms, a lot of camps to farm, but Washed Up Kid stealing away the Raptors, and counter jungling is so good on this patch because the timers have increased so much that now Etsu might be in a bit of an awkward position if he can't respond with any counter jungling of his own.
Yeah, and I think once we do see Washed Up Kid show up in the top lane, here it is. Washed Up Kid shown up in the top lane looking for that gank onto Living Dream. Is Living Dream going to flash? hasn't flashed yet. We see action in the bot lane too. Asmalex is getting engaged on. There's the flash
Oh,
coming
here
in.
comes Etsu.
Look at Panda Opie right now. He's really low. They're gonna look for this. There's the flag and drag. First blood going over to Etsu. They get the headbutt on Etsu under the tower, but first blood still goes over. Living Dream lived in the top lane, did have to blow his flash. But all in all, a win for Haze.
And Etsu is, by very definition, a carry jungler. He loves his Graves, his Jarvan, his Kha'Zix. He plays all these champions, and getting the first blood is going to enable him to be so aggressive. We thought he was going to get put behind, but recalling there ended up being the best option for him because he was able to gank down bottom lane when there was so much aggression coming out from the Edge duo. At the same time, Living Dream, he lives up in the top lane, loses the flash, but being able to survive and not fall behind, that's the key thing for Living Dream in this early game. Haze are in a good spot now.
Yeah, they're in a really good spot, and it's going to be really pivotal to see where we see Washed Up Kid make an impact. So he's tried going in top several times, wasn't actually able to get he had a semi-successful game, got the flash, but not completely successful, didn't get the first blood like you wanted to. We just saw that go in the bot lane, and that was more just from the bot lane just fighting it out, and we saw Etsu in the right place at the right time, not really him trying to put pressure and having a great gank.
Yeah, just one of those things that sometimes happens as a jungler. The timings just work out perfectly. Whereas Washed Up Kid, not necessarily
Oh, here's Etsu for the there's the flag and drag. He got hit back by Caitlyn Snow. Oh, look at these chains coming in from the traps. Able to get the kill onto Caitlyn Snow. That one was a successful gank.
Well, there you go. That right there, exactly as you said, successful. Now 2 kills over towards Etsu, and I know he's going to be going at least for the warrior. I'm interested to see how far he goes forward with this aggression, using the Scryer's Bloom there to spawn out where Washed Up Kid was. That'll result in, ward control, dominating that Tri-Brush vision, and going to give a ton of pressure to Asmalex and Worku. They were a big question mark for us. Asmalex specifically having a rough series last week. Well, now if he doesn't perform well in this game, we can criticize him very heavily because he's got a 10 CS lead. He's got 2 assists and is in a prime position to continue to dominate through this lane.
It's going to be really interesting to see how Asmalex plays this out. And he's got to continue to use this aggression that they've been using in the early lead that they have built up right now to really hinder Panda Opie from being able to pop off at all on that vein. And it could even be kind of telling that we see the team comp on the other side on Haze, that they're not really looking for that tank kind of comp that really Vaynes like to go into, because they can really shut that down. We see Fiora in the top lane, and we see Etsu on Jarvan. Jarvan can go tanky, but like you mentioned it before, that Etsu likes to play more of the carry style junglers. He doesn't really like to go for that kind of tank role. He wants to be more of the person that is carrying his team.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the draft a little bit as well, because Opie, he wanted the Vayne in the second rotation. He kind of got countered everywhere, right? They picked the aggressive top laners. There's not that big tank force that you'd love to cut through, but at the same time, you also get countered in the actual laning phase. You saw the Janna, so you figured you were going to be okay, but then Asmalex picked up the Caitlyn, and then you drafted Alistar into that matchup, so you were completely setting yourself behind in the draft, and Opie's just gonna be really hard pressed to find an opening to get back in this game.
Yeah, but this is something that we mentioned that we weren't too thrilled with, is how Asmalex is gonna play, and he had a 10 CS lead just a minute ago. Now he's behind almost 10 CS.
Yeah, well, there is also a big mini wave crashing into him, but the fact that it got neutralized is a little bit of a worry.
Right.
Gonna be watching that, but at the same time, we did just see Living Dream and Etsu actually go in and steal away the blue buff from Picklesaur, which is gonna be a big steal, and both mid laners hovering around that, or both junglers hovering around the middle lane. There's gonna be action pretty soon.
Yeah, I was looking at that mid lane too. I was just about to ask you that if you hadn't mentioned that. So it's definitely going to come up any moment because we see both Washed Up Kids and Etsu in that mid lane, and I didn't see a ping coming down from Edge to see if they know that Etsu is in the area, and he has Cataclysm up. Sure, we have level 6 for both the junglers right now, so these ganks could be really, really impactful if they're able to get a flash out of Picklesaur before the Cataclysm comes down, that's going to be even more pivotal.
Yeah, especially just utilizing the Wombo combo, essentially, that they have drafted with the Cataclysm Shockwave. But on the other hand, there's a lot of synergy there as well. If Washed Up Kid can land a nice kick, that could set up very, very well for Picklesaur to land the ultimate right there, straight up stun, just because of the way it works when you kick someone, they face away. So it could end up working very well for Edge, but time will tell for us as we have the unfortunate reality that are pauses.
Yeah, pauses. Pauses are. It's no tournament if you don't have pauses. Even IEM had them, so we're allowed to have our pauses. Now, I am definitely curious to see how the mid lane goes, but we also look at the top lane. We saw Living Dream and we saw Armia. They were having a little bit of skirmish going in the top lane, and this has a lot to do with Living Dream trying to push out Armia, but Armia is still pretty tanky and doing a really decent job with CS in that top lane.
Yeah, but again, the thing is, he's going to lose out in the side lane almost no matter what up against Living Dream. Once we get to a certain point in itemization, especially you see Living Dream already has the Vamp Scepter. That's going to be a Ravenous Hydra, almost 100%. Then later on you'll see Fiora's pick up like Bloodthirsters just to make sure that their dueling never stops, that their sustain is just beyond ridiculous. And it's going to be really hard for Edge to find someone to match her in the side lane. Armia should do all right at farming away minion waves when they come into the turret, but he's never going to be able to push on forward. And if Haze can ever get in a position to take away a Baron, that's when their composition absolutely thrives, because at that point, it's very hard for Edge to engage onto them, because even if they do engage onto the 4-man unit of Haze, Living Dream is going to be able to pressure inhibitor turrets and inhibitors.
Very true.
So especially once that 30-minute mark comes around, look for Haze to be really wanting to find themselves in a position to start sieging down, especially with a Caitlyn, Orianna, Janna. Those guys can all hit the turret pretty easily.
Yeah, and everyone knows that Caitlyn sieges are just absolutely monsters. Put down that line of traps, you're gonna want to avoid going across those, getting headshotted consistently, and then Orianna Ball being able to zone is just absolutely massive. Now, I want to see a Rift Herald take. I want to see Living Dream try to get a Rift Herald, because that's just gonna. You were talking about how you want to have these Baron fights. You want to have Living Dream be able to put pressure on the side of the map. So even if they do have a lot of pressure going onto Baron, he's able to take inhibitor towers. But if he has that Rift Herald, he's going to be even more impactful, be able to do even more.
Yeah, in order to get a Rift Herald, though, that'll mean that Etsu has to put pressure either in this middle lane or the top lane. You have to get some sort of numbers advantage, because otherwise Rift Herald is just a pretty risky objective to take without too much payoff. Yes, it will pay dividends in the long run, but the fact that it takes so long to kill can be stolen away so easily means that you really do have to have a pretty significant advantage, or at least a lot of good vision in the enemy jungle around that top side of the map. That's the only way I'd really see that one panning out.
Yeah, and that's why I would like to see that. I would like to see them to try to put pressure up there. If they're able to get a kill on, I don't know, like Armia or even on a Picklesaur in the mid lane, then rotate right towards the Rift Herald. That way, even if they do try to contest it, it's going to be a 2v3.
Yeah, and going back to that split push point, the Baron buff as well, when you're making a team composition in Champ Select or in your preparation or whatnot, you have to kind of follow this checklist. It's like, can we, do well in the early game? How's our team fighting doing? Can we, press our advantages? Do we have some way to engage team fights? But you also have to go, well, if we get behind or if we give up a Baron, do we have any wave clear? And that is something that Edge are actually lacking severely in this game. Vayne not going to contribute to that much unless there's maybe a static shiv to come in, but even then it's pretty lackluster. And Cassiopeia, while she can clear the waves, she needs a lot of time with them to, utilize those twin fangs. And up against this split push siege composition of Haze, it is a little bit of a weakness. So the fact that they are getting behind a little bit and maybe in a situation where they'd have to defend their turrets to a siege could be a little bit troublesome as they get into that middle stage of the game when Haze really try to force down those turrets.
Yeah, I think you have a great point right there, is that the lack of wave clear, we didn't really touch upon that in the Champions Select. We didn't really see that as the issue because we saw a great kind of skirmishing team fight. They really want to have these fights where, sure, Living Dream's going to be off in the side lane pushing, but they want to go, go, go. They want to fight you when they can't. But if you have such a good siege comp that it's even hard, it's just hard enough to get to them, let alone fight them. It's going to be too hard for you if you're on edge. That you kind of got outdrafted in this rotation.
Well, and the thing is, Edge have a really good late-game scaling team composition with the Cassiopeia, a Vayne. They've got good team fighting. But when you see that, typically see it paired up with wave clear, so you can stall out if you do find yourself in a deficit for the first 20 minutes of the game. And right now, they are in a small deficit. So you typically see something like a Victor to be able to clear waves easily, and maybe a Sivir out of the bottom lane, something along those lines to be able to fare well in a siege scenario. So their really only way to stop a siege from happening is to engage fights with a Maokai flank and Alistar jumping on in there. But we already talked about how Haze do have the tools to stop those engages if they so desire with the Janna pick.
Yeah, and that Janna pick is doing a lot more work than we really thought. Like, well, just looking at it initially, it's a good pick, but it's going to be even more impactful just with how there isn't wave clear, and their one win condition is to try to go for those fight kind of mentality. But then you just have Janna, who's more of like, I don't want that. I don't. Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah. And typically, I'm not a huge fan of Janna either. Like, whenever I see it picked, I'm like, well, I don't really like it. Especially into something like the Vayne, because then I'm like, oh, well, Vayne can kind of get through her rough early laning phase because Janna doesn't provide that much. But Edge drafted the Alistar into the Janna, said, we're going to favor this team fight, whereas you're going to be able to punish us in the lane, even though you didn't necessarily draft that very strong 2 versus 2. So it has ended up working, and the fact that not only does the Janna pick not get punished, but it is allowed to dish out damage and be a threat in this lane is a huge surprise, and a little bit of a misstep from Edge, I believe, in their draft.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that Edge had an opportunity to get the lane in their favor. We saw, like, sure, the first level or two, it was a little rough, but had we seen a really good impactful gank coming in from Wash Up Kid in the bot lane, it could have actually completely skewed it the other way.
Well, I mean, had Etsu not come at the perfect time right there, it was all thrown off because they were both up topside for so long, and then I honestly feel like the Edge duo went in for that fight because they saw Etsu in the top lane. They pinged him out, but then he recalled in the bush, and they had no real idea of knowing that. And then there comes a point when it's like, well, was he in the bush for a minute, or did he recall and walk bottom lane? And you just have to kind of weigh the odds right there. And Edge took the bait on in there, and Etsu was able to come in for a nice gank.
Well, yeah, a nice gank or just a perfect timing.
I mean, isn't a nice gank perfect timing? That's all I can say.
Oh, you know, that's a fair point, and the kill is a kill. They got a kill. So they were able to get that when they needed to. And, man, we have been trying to stall for quite some time.
9 whole minutes.
So, 10 whole minutes. And what it is, it's just the computer needed to update. It was one of those lovely, lovely Windows updates that forces you out, that just completely shuts it down without you really wanting it to. So...
Or it tells you like a day ago, oh, it's gonna reset at this time, and you're like, oh, just do it in like a day from now, or remind me in a day from now. But you're playing a game of League of Legends, you can't really notice when those things pop up, and thankfully we're back in.
There we go. That was perfect timing. We knew completely, and now we see the fighting coming in. The army had taken a bit of damage. That Courage of the Colossus, though, love that mastery, but it's way too broken.
Yeah, and actually there's a ward spotting out Washed Up Kid, so they know he went into the jungle. They also know that Picklesore is alone in this middle lane, although he's hugging the bottom side. That's something you'll see a lot with better players, that they hug the side of their jungler, and now they can't go in. Yeah,
they hug the side of their jungler, and where they have wards. We saw that blue ward, what is right there, so they kind of had that picked out. There's Washed Up Kid coming in. He does go for he does follow up the Sonic Wave, trying to see if he can get in onto Etsu. Doesn't really want more, though. Just wanted to get a little bit of poke, dish out a little damage.
Yeah, I was also able to steal away the Krug, so continuing with that counter-jungling mindset that he started the game very early on with has manifested itself in about 12 CS, which is pretty impactful as a jungler. But the issue is that the 2 kills from Haze have both gone onto Etsu. So that advantage has not only been nullified, but actually swung the other way in Etsu's favor. He's going to be up in gold in this matchup, even if he's getting bullied around a little bit out of his own jungle.
Yeah, he's just getting a little bit, and that's a Lee Sin for you. Lee Sin is a great counter jungler, especially in the earlier levels where he has the biggest advantage, in my opinion. And more skirmishing in the top lane, they really like to fight this out, and I actually have to give Army a lot of credit there. He got a decent chunk of damage on the Living Dream.
Yeah, Maokai's base damages are very good, so he's actually able to bully Living Dream around a little bit in this matchup. It's one that will swing back and forth a couple times this game, I feel, because right now Living Dream doesn't have the sustain necessary to deal with Armia, so once he perhaps does get the Ravenous Hydra, he'll come back online. Then there'll be a point in the game where Armia has 2 or 3 armor items and Living Dream won't have his second life steal, and until he gets that, he'll also perhaps struggle a little bit. It's just about getting through those times without, again, giving over any advantages to Armia.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to fall behind as a Fiora. Fiora is such a heavy snowball champion that if you just lose a little bit of an advantage, it could be devastating for you. And I just want to touch up really quick. We did see the dragon going over to the side of Edge. Really good control of the vision, at least, for Edge. And they were able to get that fairly easily. We did see Worku came in the area, was able to see them do that. And now Etsu. Ooh, Etsu's in a bad spot. There comes the Petrifying Gaze. He's going to... Oh, he's going to get dropped. There it is. There's the kill going on to Picklesore from the poison. Now they're going in on to Asmalex, who was a little far out. They were trying to see if they could help out. And it's so unfortunate for Etsu. He almost got to that blast cone. He was almost able to make it out. But the poison damage over time was just not enough. It was too much. It's too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the vision from Edge that spots Etsu out coming through that entire path. Great roam then from Picklesore, and they're going in.
Yeah, 2-man pulverize. So that was really good. They do get the stun coming in from the new trample onto Asmalex. But look at that. Look at the amount of damage they're able to put right back on to Caitlyn Snow.
Oh, yeah. Picklesore, though.
Picklesore. Yeah, but Picklesore didn't have Petrifying Gaze, so he couldn't, unfortunately, follow that up even more and get a kill in the 1v1. But
still a flash.
Put a lot... Yeah, still a flash onto Prey. Here's Armia. Armia wanted to see if he can pick out Prey a little bit, try to help out, get a kill onto Picklesore.
Not sure how necessary the flash was coming out from Armia. Getting a ton of respect over to Prey's Shockwave. So, again, won't go down, but now down a summoner, this is when Etsu's going to probably change his mindset and go, oh, well, now maybe it's time to try and get Living Dream ahead. Down a summoner spell on the Maokai, and even if he goes for a gank middle lane, he is putting Prey at serious risk of going down here. And yeah, Prey just wants to get out of this lane. There's nothing he wants to do about that.
No, there's no reason to stay on that one. You would just drop if you were to stay in there. And Etsu, I think you just want to put a little bit of pressure in the mid lane now. As we see, Wash Up Kid, he hasn't had the most impactful ganks, but something he has been doing really impactfully is vision control. And we mentioned that earlier, the vision control they had on their own side of their jungle. But now, look at this. He's back in the side of Etsu's jungle. He's looking for more. They're looking for a tower dive, possibly, on to Asmalex and Worku. But watch up, kid. He's sitting on a ward. Here comes the tornado. The blast gun is able to keep him safe. Ace in the hole does a lot of damage, but he's already to safety. He's not going to be taken down anytime soon. And Prey, he did use Ghosts. He wanted to get more on that one, but sadly not able to find more.
And all this is just hinting at what's to come. There's been no pressure around this top lane. These guys are going to be in side lanes for the majority of the game. But when we're going to see action come is when Armia utilizes that teleport to join up with the rest of his team. And that just hasn't quite happened just yet. I'm really waiting until Edge get the good vision down, get the deep ward down in bottom lane so he can come in from behind. Asmalex and Worku, they both have their flashes up, but still, if he times that with the gank from Washed Up Kid with a roam from Picklesore, could be a huge teamfight victory for Edge.
Yeah, well, I will say there are a few areas where there's good wards that we could see Armia TP to. Here comes the grand challenge, and from Living Dream, he wants to try to follow this up. Are we going to see the Vengeful Maelstrom being popped? There it is, Vengeful Maelstrom. With the grand challenge, it did end, so he wasn't able to get that last bit of proc. And look at this, Watch Up Kid, the flash. He does get the 1v1, but here's Watch Up Kid. He does get the revenge kill for Armia. So that was an interesting play coming in from Living Dream. He's able to get the kill, but he does use his flash for it.
I'd say a little bit of worth right there for Living Dream. Gets the kill for himself, and that's all he really wants. Will be denied a little bit. Now Washed Up Kid, no ulti, he's in trouble.
Washed Up Kid, no ulti.
Oh, he hasn't.
No, he does. Yeah, he just got ulti up right when you said that. And look at that, another two-man Pulverize coming in. There's the Monsoon to try to keep Worku safe. He wanted to keep himself a little bit safe, not getting stunned up from the trample. And look at the damage. That bot lane tower is most likely going to fall. There it is. They do see the condemn into the wall onto Asmalex. Here comes the teleport. Teleport for teleport. Is it going to be in time? No, it's not. Asmalex does fall. Worku's going to be the next target. He double kill. Going over to Panda Oppa. Living Dream, he's in a bad spot. He teleported into a losing fight. As we see Armia in the region. Ooh. And while the tower went down, a double kill going over to Panda Oppa. That's really a scary thing.
Yeah, and the only unfortunate thing for Edge there is that Armia loses the TP. Yes, it's a trade, but again, Maokai TP going to be much more impactful, but they did get 2 kills onto Oppa, so it's still a completely worthwhile venture for them. Not only that, but they're also pressuring down this turret, and I don't know, they're calling in Prey to try and hold on, but I don't think it's enough.
I don't think it's enough. Are they going to go for this? They do look for the shockwave.
Oh,
Shockwave
no.
completely whiffs. Tower is done. There's the engage. They get Prey. Living Dream, he's the only one left. They want to get the stun from Caitlyn Snow. There's a grand challenge to scare them away. But all in all, that is a massive win for Edge.
Yeah, and because Prey rotates down bottom, is unable to save the turret, he goes down, and he also gives up complete control over the middle lane, which now you see Picklesore putting pressure on as well. Flash from Washed Up Kid.
Yeah, he had to flash. He was definitely afraid Asmalex was going to get a kill onto him right there. And this is something I just want to touch up on really quick. We kind of criticized Asmalex's decision making and his play in the last time we saw him, and giving a double kill and a lot of pressure in the bot lane just to try to get that tower right then and there. I don't know if that was the best decision.
Yeah. Oh, Snow's coming in from behind. They want it again.
They want it again. They did use the tornado a little too early from Worku. Here comes the trample. They're going to get the stun onto Worku. There goes the kill. Caitlyn Snow is able to pick that one up. Asmalex, he's going to easily go down on this one. There's a killing spree going over to Panda Oppa.
Wow, so brutal right there. You were talking about how he wanted to get that turret, and now Etsu, he's trying to jump away. He will be successful, but again, all the pressure now being lost for Haze. The duo they sent up into the top, they go down, so Oppa, he has free reign to split in that side lane. They can rotate down Snow, and now all of a sudden, there's not enough members to hold on to this mid lane turret from Haze.
Yeah, and talk about a series of unfortunate events as well. We saw Haze with this what looked like an easy win. They were doing great in the early game. They were getting the pressure they needed to. But then suddenly, just one decision ends up snowballing it so greatly into all these horrible events that end up transpiring. They lose their bot tower. They lose the top tower. There's 3 kills now onto that Vayne that was 0-1 and 2 before. It's not something that you want to see.
Yeah, not exactly, especially because we said Asmalex was in a good position to carry, but oversteps his bounds just a little bit, and now Haze feel the pressure. They're holding on to their middle turret, and this is where Edge thrives. If they're not being sieged onto, they are so strong. If they can knock down these turrets and fight in these very open areas, that is where they are going to be absolutely monstrous. This dragon could be a huge turning point in this game, and I don't know if Haze necessarily have the power necessary to come out on top here, but they're trying.
Yeah, they definitely want to put the pressure on the mid tower. They want to get this tower and get gold back in their pocket, but is that really a good idea? Like we talked about how Living Dream, he's on the Fiora. He wants to be split pushing, but being in the mid lane with Group Does 5, interesting decision.
Oh man, and Washed Up Kid is actually soloing away the Mountain Drake right now. That is such a good call from him because Haze, they don't have actual vision on it. They have vision leading up to the pit, so they know if Edge is a team walk down.
Yep.
But they don't know where he is exactly.
There it is.
Lose that. Oh man.
That's a huge Drake to lose to. We always have this discussion of which is best, and I always love the Mountain Drakes. I always think those are so impactful. And when you want to siege like you are right now, that it makes it even more useful, more beneficial.
Yeah, interestingly enough, though, Edge have split up 3 people mid lane, 2 bottom. Not completely sold on this idea just yet.
Yeah.
The fact that they're pulling some members from Haze down could buy some time for Picklesore and Snow to make some pressure in the middle lane, but instead they're just going straight in on Worku.
They're going in for Worku. They got the Sonic wave they wanted. They got what they need to, and now Asmalex, easy pick'ems for them. They got the easy pickup in the jungle. The jungle does not belong to you anymore, Etsu. I'm so sorry. You forfeited that some time ago. Washup Kid's been making that known, and they're looking for more. They're looking for a dive. They're going deep on this one. Wow, they really wanted to get Etsu. They're probably going to get this inhibitor tower, though. This is not even a 20-minute, just 20-minute inhibitor tower and a 20-minute inhibitor going over to the side. Sure, Living Dream, he got the top tower, but losing Asmalex and Worku meant they lost so much right there.
The bait and switch right there. Edge, they feint down bottom pretending they want to siege that turret, but in reality, they were just pulling in Worku, pulling in Osmalex, waiting for them to step too close before they engaged entirely, knocking down an inhibitor at 20 minutes. Well, say bye-bye to Baron right now, because Living Dream, he's going to have to deal with those supers. So he's going to have no pressure in a split push anymore, because Edge have that quote-unquote 6th man. Now Edge can put pressure on the Baron, because they have, quite honestly, the best inhibitor in the game for trying to attempt the Baron, which is the bottom lane.
Yeah, that's the one you really want, and that's just absolutely disgusting to see, because it's just going to mean so much control. And look at the vision, too. They have such a great vision control going in for their side, and we are now seeing some wards coming in from the side of Haze, but it's too little too late. They still have a lot of blank spots on the map.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, too, we thought Etsu was going to go for an aggressive attack damage build. It's Washed Up Kid who picked up the Warrior and the Edge of Night. He is going full aggression right here. And his team is backing him up. If they don't have to take these team fights, he can totally get away with that. Etsu!
Oh, Etsu's really far in. There's the shockwave. It does it on the Panda. They're looking for more. There's the petrifying gaze. It does it onto 2 members. Worku is looking like the next target. Picklesore, is he going to drop? He does drop to the ground challenge, but look at this. Panda Opa, he gets a quadra kill.
That's game.
That is going to be game already. That one team fight will most likely be the end of game 1. Wow, talk about just taking one small advantage and snowballing that out of control for your team.
One small step for man, one giant leap for Edge right there, because they're ending the game at 22 minutes. The death timers are so short, but even then, they're on to the Nexus here, and Haze, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, there's nothing. That's going to be game number 1 going over to Edge, between Edge and the Haze, and wow, that is literally just, and that all stems from that one play in the bot lane. That stems from them overstepping, trying to take a tower and taking too much damage when they didn't need to take it at that exact moment.
Yeah, the game just completely exploded right there. There were only 18 kills in that game. It wasn't this high kill game, but more than half of those happened in the last 3 or 4 minutes right there. Edge completely dismantling Haze just with the snap of a hand.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it felt right there. It was this very close game. Haze had the lead for the longest time, and then suddenly, just super suddenly, just dropped it in a heartbeat, and it felt like that game ended well before it should have.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, too, Haze probably did more damage. You look at Osmalex, he did most damage in game, did more than even Panda Opa, but Panda Opa's the one with 8 kills with the quadra to finish things off. I mean, he barely had 2 items by the time that finished. There wasn't a fully stacked tier for Picklesore in the mid lane.
Yeah, that's what happens though. This can happen, and especially if you have great communication coming in. We saw that great communication, that great just bait and switch that you talked about in the jungle, trying to make sure that they get as much in Worku in their own jungle, just saying, oh yeah, we're totally trying to siege the bot lane. You can come to the jungle. It's totally cool, and then just automatically kill them, get so much pressure right there. They got the inhibitor off that one play alone, and then they go for the dive onto Etsu, who got a little too far out. They get him really fast, and then they're able to get good petrifying gaze. It means a win for them right away.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to take a little bit of a break. Haze have to figure out what just happened in the last 2 minutes to go from losing a turret to losing an inhibitor to losing the game completely changing right there for those guys. We'll be back after this.
All right, I got the game.
Yeah! Go, 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 go! Pass the ball! You can look at the ball and walk backwards. You see, that's how you do it.
Watch TV anywhere for free on 4G. Now that's something worth shouting about.
What if we could change the way we see the world? Rediscovering ourselves through the people we meet and the moments we share. Each experience, every encounter, changes our perspectives, leading us to live life our own way. Money my way.